Ever wonder why some people seem to move through the world with a quiet, unshakable confidence? Not arrogance, not pride, but a deep, settled sense of their own worth. While others, despite their talent, their intelligence, their genuine goodness, seem to constantly shrink. They apologize before they speak. They give more than they receive. They say yes when everything inside them is screaming no. And the strangest part, most of the time, they have no idea they're doing it. This video is for those people. Maybe it's for you. Because undervaluing yourself isn't always obvious. It doesn't always look like low self-esteem. Sometimes it looks like being the most reliable person in the room. Sometimes it looks like being endlessly generous. Sometimes it looks like working the hardest and asking for the least. It hides in habits, in patterns, in the small daily decisions you've been making so long they no longer feel like choices. They just feel like who you are. The Stoic philosophers understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. These were men who thought seriously about what it means to live with dignity, to understand your own nature, to neither inflate yourself with vanity nor diminish yourself with false humility. And what they found was this: the greatest obstacle to a well-lived life is often not arrogance. It's self-neglect. It's the quiet, daily habit of treating yourself as less important than you actually are. So today, we're going to walk through 12 signs that you might be undervaluing yourself without even realizing it, not to make you feel bad, but to wake something up in you. Because the Stoics believed that awareness is always the first step to freedom. Let's begin. Sign number 1. You apologize for existing. Pay attention to how often you apologize in a single day, not for genuine mistakes. Those deserve acknowledgement, but for simply being present, for taking up space, for having a need. Sorry to bother you, but sorry, this might be a dumb question. Sorry for asking, Each one of these small apologies sends a signal to others, and more importantly to yourself, that your presence is an imposition, that your needs are burdens, that you require permission to exist. Epictetus, born a slave who earned his freedom through philosophy, spoke often about what he called the inner citadel, the fortress of your own soul that no one can touch unless you let them. And here is the bitter irony. Every unnecessary apology is a small act of handing over the keys to that citadel. You are telling the world, I don't quite believe I deserve to be here. The Stoics made a sharp distinction between things within our control and things outside it. Your worth, your fundamental dignity as a rational human being, is within you. It is not granted by others. It does not require validation, and it certainly does not require an apology. Watch your language this week. Notice when you apologize not because you've done something wrong, but because you're afraid that simply being yourself might inconvenience someone. That fear is the sign. Sign number 2. You shrink your accomplishments. You just finished something extraordinary. Maybe you got a promotion, completed a difficult project, overcame a major obstacle. Someone congratulates you. And what do you say? Oh, it was nothing. Anyone could have done it. I just got lucky. This is called minimizing. And while it can look like humility, and sometimes genuinely is, more often it's a defense mechanism. If you minimize your success before anyone else can, you beat them to the punch. You can't be knocked down if you're already on the ground. But here's what the Stoics would say: false modesty is not a virtue. True modesty is accurate self-assessment. It means not claiming more credit than you deserve, but it also means not claiming less. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations about the importance of seeing things as they truly are, not better, not worse. He called this objective judgment, and that principle applies inward too. When you did something well, it is not arrogance to recognize it. It is accuracy. Undervaluing your accomplishments also trains your brain over time. The stories we tell ourselves shape how we see ourselves. If you constantly narrate your life as a series of lucky breaks and accidents, you will start to believe it. And you will stop pushing for more, because why would you? You've convinced yourself you're not really responsible for the good things anyway. Acknowledge what you've done, not with ego, with honesty. Sign number 3, you tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. Someone speaks to you rudely. A colleague takes credit for your work. A family member dismisses your feelings. A friend cancels on you for the 3rd time in a row. and you say nothing, not because you didn't notice, not because it didn't hurt, but because you've decided that the discomfort of speaking up is greater than the pain of being disrespected. You've calculated, consciously or not, that the relationship or the peace or the approval of this other person is worth more than your own dignity. Seneca wrote powerfully about self-respect. He warned against spending our lives trying to please everyone, to smooth every conflict, to keep every person comfortable, at the expense of our own integrity. The point was not to become combative or reactive. There is real wisdom in choosing your battles, but there is a difference between choosing not to engage because you are secure and centered, and staying silent because you don't believe you deserve better. The first is strength. The second is self-erasure. If you find yourself regularly accepting treatment you would never allow someone to inflict on a person you love, that gap is telling you something important. You are applying two different standards, one generous, one harsh, and you are always on the receiving end of the harsh one. Sign number 4. You feel guilty when you rest. You lie down for an afternoon. You take a day off. You choose not to respond to emails on a Sunday. And within minutes, sometimes seconds, the guilt creeps in. What am I doing? I should be working. Other people are grinding right now. I don't deserve this. This is one of the most quietly destructive signs of self-undervaluation there is, because it is dressed up in the language of virtue. We praise productivity. We celebrate hustle. We call rest laziness, and laziness a sin. But the Stoics saw this very differently. Seneca devoted an entire essay on the shortness of life, to the importance of genuinely living, not merely occupying time with busyness. He was scathing about people who were always busy but never actually present, never truly resting. He said they were not truly alive at all. Rest is not a reward for finishing your to-do list. It is a biological and philosophical necessity. When you feel guilty for resting, you are saying, "My value is only in what I produce. I am a function, not a person." That is a profound form of self-undervaluation. You are reducing yourself to your output, forgetting that you have inherent worth simply by virtue of being a conscious, thinking, feeling human being. The Stoics would say, you did not earn your place in the world through your productivity. You were granted it by nature. Honor that. Sign number 5. You always put everyone else first. You are the first to volunteer, the last to complain, the one who checks in on others, who remembers everyone's birthdays, who absorbs other people's problems as if they were your own. And you do this not occasionally, but as a constant structural feature of how you move through life. On its own, this sounds admirable. Generosity is a Stoic virtue. Care for others is deeply human and beautiful. But here is the question the Stoics would ask. Are you choosing to give from a place of abundance and genuine care? Or are you giving because somewhere inside you, you believe your own needs don't count, that other people's comfort matters more than yours? Marcus Aurelius wrote about the common good, the Stoic idea that we are all connected and have duties to one another. But he also wrote extensively about self-governance and caring for one's own rational nature. He never suggested that virtue required self-erasure. You can be deeply generous without being self-sacrificial. In fact, you will be a better giver when you are. Because people who run on empty don't give generously, they give resentfully, and eventually they stop giving altogether. If you find yourself exhausted, depleted, and quietly bitter, even as you keep giving, it's a sign your generosity has crossed a line. It is no longer a gift freely given. It has become a tax you pay to feel worthy. Sign number 6, you struggle to receive compliments. You look amazing today. That was really impressive. I think you're incredibly talented. And you immediately deflect. You look away, you say, "Oh, stop it," or "No, I'm really not," or pivot immediately to complimenting them back. Anything to get the spotlight off you as quickly as possible. Receiving a compliment gracefully is surprisingly hard for people who undervalue themselves. The reason is subtle but important. Accepting a compliment requires believing it. And if you don't believe you are talented or capable or worthy, then accepting the compliment feels like accepting a lie. So you reject it. But think about what you're doing. You are correcting someone who is trying to honor you. You are telling them their perception is wrong. You are prioritizing your own negative self-image over their generous, sincere observation. Epictetus taught that we must be careful about which judgments we allow to govern our lives. Most of us are far quicker to accept a harsh criticism, even an unfair one, than a sincere compliment. We hold the negative tightly and throw the positive away. This is not humility. This is a bias, a systematic distortion in the way you process information about yourself. The practice the Stoics would prescribe: when someone offers you something good, receive it. You don't have to gush, just say thank you and let the words land. Let them mean something. Let yourself be seen as good, even for a moment. It is a radical act when you've spent a lifetime looking away. Sign number 7. You overexplain and justify your decisions. You decide to leave a party early. You decline an invitation. You change your mind about something. You say no to a request. And then comes the avalanche. I would have loved to, but the thing is, I have this early morning, and I've been really tired lately, and I've been trying to take better care of myself, and I know you probably think I'm being antisocial, but it's really not that. When you have not done anything wrong, you do not owe anyone an explanation. But people who undervalue themselves often feel that their choices, especially inconvenient ones, require a defense. That without sufficient justification, they will be judged, abandoned, or disliked. This comes from a belief, often installed in childhood, that your preferences are not legitimate on their own. That, "I don't want to," is not a good enough reason. That you must earn the right to your own boundaries. Marcus Aurelius wrote about living with integrity, doing what is right and necessary without craving approval. You are allowed to make decisions based on what is right for you. You are allowed to say no without a 3-paragraph explanation. You are allowed to change your mind without a formal apology tour. The moment you start offering unsolicited justifications, ask yourself, who am I performing for? And why don't I believe my own judgment is sufficient? Sign number 8. You downplay your needs in relationships. In your friendships, your romantic partnerships, your family relationships. Do you consistently minimize what you need? Do you convince yourself you're low maintenance, that you're easy to be with, that you don't need much? And is that actually true? Or have you simply trained yourself not to ask? There is a beautiful sounding story we tell ourselves when we suppress our needs. I'm independent. I'm strong. But very often, underneath that story is a more painful one. I don't trust that people will stay if I show them what I actually need. So I'll show them as little as possible. This is not strength. This is the loneliest kind of self-protection. Seneca wrote deeply about friendship, real friendship, which requires real self-disclosure. It requires showing up as who you actually are, with your actual needs and vulnerabilities. Without that, you don't have a relationship. You have a performance. People who undervalue themselves often end up appreciated for what they do, for their usefulness, their loyalty, rather than for who they are. And they accept this because they're not sure who they are is enough. Here is a Stoic truth. Your needs are not character flaws. They are part of your nature. And any relationship that cannot accommodate your honest, reasonable needs is not the relationship you think it is. Sign number 9. You compare yourself and always come up short. Scrolling through social media, sitting in a meeting, watching a friend's success. And that quiet, corrosive voice starts. They're so much further along than I am. They're more talented, more disciplined, more everything. Comparison is the thief of self-worth. And the Stoics knew this, even without Instagram. Marcus Aurelius warned against measuring your life against the lives of others. He wrote about people who spend their entire existence chasing external images, fame, wealth, admiration, and in doing so, lose the thread of their own life entirely. But here's the subtler problem. The comparison is never fair. You compare your insides to other people's outsides, your worst moments to their highlight reels, your private doubts to their public triumphs. The math will never work in your favor, because you're using two completely different currencies. The Stoic practice is to return, always, to your own path. Your life has a specific shape, a specific purpose, a specific set of gifts and challenges. No one else's life is the right metric for yours. The only comparison worth making, Epictetus suggested, is with who you were yesterday. That is the only race you were actually entered in. Sign number 10. You don't believe you deserve good things when they happen. Something wonderful happens. You get the job. The relationship blossoms. Life gives you a genuine, unexpected gift. And instead of receiving it with gratitude, you immediately start waiting for it to fall apart. This is called waiting for the other shoe to drop. And for people who undervalue themselves, it is almost a reflex. Because on some level, they don't believe they deserve this. They believe the good thing is a mistake, something that will be taken away the moment the universe realizes it made an error. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." He called this amor fati, love of fate, love of what is. But you cannot practice amor fati if you are constantly bracing against the good things. Part of valuing yourself is believing that good things are within the realm of what is possible for you, that you are not permanently, cosmically excluded from happiness, love, success, or peace. That when good things arrive, they are sometimes the natural result of who you are and how you've been living. Receive the good things, fully, without immediately engineering their destruction. Sign number 11, you are harsher on yourself than on anyone else. Your friend makes a mistake. You comfort them, reassure them, remind them of everything they're doing right, and tell them that everyone fails sometimes and this doesn't define them. You make the same mistake, and the inner monologue sounds nothing like that. Stupid. Pathetic. You should have known better. You always do this. This double standard, compassion outward, cruelty inward, is perhaps the most common and most damaging form of self-undervaluation, and it feels virtuous, which makes it especially insidious. We tell ourselves that holding ourselves to a higher standard means we care, that self-criticism is how we improve. But Epictetus made a powerful distinction between discipline and self-attack. Discipline is useful. It's the practice of directing your will toward what matters. Self-attack is something else entirely. It is the habit of punishing yourself not for growth, but out of a deep belief that you are fundamentally inadequate. The Stoics believed in reason as the highest human faculty, and reason applied to yourself should look the same as reason applied to anyone else. The same evidence, the same standards, the same capacity for mercy when mercy is warranted. The fact that you are harder on yourself than on the people you love most is not a sign of virtue. It is a sign that you believe somewhere deep down that they deserve more grace than you do. They don't, and you know it. Sign number 12. You've stopped dreaming because you don't think you're worthy of more. This is the last sign, and in many ways, the deepest one. You used to want things, big things, a life that felt like yours, a purpose that set something alight in your chest. You had dreams, maybe vivid, specific dreams, and somewhere along the way, you quietly folded them up and put them away. Not because life became impossible, but because some part of you decided those dreams weren't really for you. They were for other people, bolder people, people with more talent, more luck, better circumstances. And so you settled. Not dramatically. There was no single moment of defeat. It happened slowly, in small compromises, in quiet surrenders, in the accumulated weight of self-doubt. The Stoics would say, you have confused the obstacle with the truth. You have mistaken a feeling, the feeling of unworthiness, for a fact. But feelings are not facts. They are data. They are signals worth examining. They are not verdicts. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the most powerful empire in the world and still struggled daily with self-doubt, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The power he spoke of is not the power to control circumstances. It is the power to determine what you believe about yourself, and therefore, what you reach for. What you reach for determines what you find. If you have stopped reaching, if you have stopped dreaming, ask yourself honestly, was it the world that told you no? Or was it that voice inside, the one that sounds so reasonable, so realistic, so responsible, but is actually just afraid? Because fear is not wisdom, and settling is not peace. It is just a quieter kind of suffering. So what do we do with all of this? The Stoics weren't selling you a feeling. They were giving you a practice, a daily, disciplined, deeply human practice of seeing yourself clearly and living accordingly. Here is where they would start. First, examine your judgments. Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about events. And this applies to our judgments about ourselves. Every time you minimize yourself, apologize unnecessarily, or dismiss your own needs, there is a judgment underneath it. Find it, name it, ask whether it is actually true. Second, practice accurate self-assessment, not arrogance, not false modesty, accuracy. What are you genuinely good at? What have you genuinely accomplished? What do you genuinely need? Resist the pull toward inflation, but resist equally the pull toward diminishment. See yourself as you are. Third, act from your values, not your fears. Most of the behaviors in this list, the apologies, the silence, the self-sabotage, are driven by fear. Fear of rejection, judgment, abandonment, failure. The Stoic path is to ask, instead, what do I actually value? What does a person of good character do here? And then do that, regardless of the outcome. Fourth, speak to yourself as you would speak to someone you love. This is a radical act for most people. The next time you make a mistake, or feel inadequate, or compare yourself to someone else and come up short, stop. Choose different words. Not denial, not empty affirmation, but the genuine kindness you'd offer a dear friend in the same situation. Fifth, remember that your value is not contingent. Your worth is not determined by your productivity, your usefulness to others, your achievements, or anyone else's approval. It is inherent. It comes with being a rational, conscious, moral creature, which you are. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that fame is vanity, wealth is impermanent, and titles are hollow. What mattered, what always mattered, was the quality of the soul directing the life. Not how impressive you looked, but how honestly and well you lived. You don't have to become a different person to be worthy of more. You already are more. The work is simply to stop denying it. If you recognized yourself in some of these signs, maybe one, maybe all 12, hear this clearly, that recognition is not a verdict, it is an invitation. The Stoics believed without exception that human beings have the capacity for growth, that the rational mind, properly directed, can revise its judgments, reform its habits, and move toward a more excellent version of itself. Always, at any age, in any circumstance. You have not missed your window. You have not used up your chances. The fact that you are here, willing to look honestly at yourself, that is already an act of courage that many people will never take. Marcus Aurelius ended many of his journal entries with a quiet resolution, a decision to try again, to do better, not with drama or self-flagellation, but with the calm, steady determination of someone who understands that the work of becoming is never finished, and that this is not a tragedy. It is the whole point. So this is your moment. Not of transformation. Transformation takes time, but of decision, of choosing quietly and firmly to begin treating yourself with the same respect, the same fairness, the same compassion you have always so readily given to others, because you were never actually worth less. You just forgot. And now, you remember. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more Stoic philosophy applied to daily life. Until next time, take care of your mind. It's the only home you truly own.